Hello and welcome to Russ's Movie Corner. My name is Russ, and as you can see, I am sitting in front of my movie corner. I have my Guarding the Galaxy t-shirt on and my Son of God movie right next to me. I have this movie here today because, as of filming this is the week of Christmas. It might go up right around then or not, but if so, Merry Christmas to you. And hope your family had a wonderful holiday. So, you probably noticed around me that you're looking actually at my desktop screen. There's a reason for this. Today, I'm actually going to be addressing some concerns that I've had in my comments section recently. You can see that my light is kind of fading, so it probably will fade out, but if it does, don't worry about it. I will still have enough light that it won't be that much of a problem. But anyway. So, this is an unusual comments on comments episode that I'm doing today, because normally when I do it, you don't get to see my screen. But, this guy, okay, comes to my comments section, and his name is Turbo Brain, okay? And Turbo Brain came to my comments section the other day and basically said, and basically left a whole host of things. I debunked most of these. The ones that I didn't readily debunk, the ones that he could come back and actually say, aha, gotcha, to, then those were the ones that I put down on the screen that you see right here. Okay? And so what we're going to do today is we are going to go through, and we're going to go through each one of these quotes. And this is probably going to take me a few episodes, okay? So, like before, when I had, part 1 and part 2, 8.1, 8.2, this one's going to be, 9.1, and then the next episode will be 9.2, and however long we need to go for, okay? Because this is something that I've had an issue with for a long time. This guy, Turbo Brain, okay, you can see his thing here. His brain is not a turbo brain, okay, as you'll see. He's very ignorant of a lot of facts, but he likes to pretend that he knows a lot of things. So he'll make it sound like, aha, see, I gotcha. But he doesn't, okay? So here's where we're going to start getting into it. So in my last Simon Dan rebuttal episode, okay, Simon Dan brought up, so one of the guys in the thing brought up the Ica stones, okay? And the Ica stones were found in Ica, Peru, okay? And they had little carvings on them, and they had different things like that. So I came in, and I said, and I mentioned it, and I said, and what Simon Dan said is he goes, well, some of the Ica stones were claimed to have been a hoax by the man who did some of them were claimed to be a hoax by a farmer who found them in a cave. Then he comes back after the guy comes in and talks a little bit more about the Ica stones. He comes back and he goes, yes, but all the Ica stones. And I'm like, no, wait a minute. You can't have it both ways. You can't say some were faked and then say all of them are fake. Either some of them are fake or all of them are fake. So then Turbo Brain posts, and I quote, the Ica stones are a collection of andesite stones found in Ica province, Peru, that bear a variety of diagrams. Some of them supposedly have depictions of dinosaur and what is alleged to be advanced technology. These are recognized as modern curiosity or hoaxes. And then he cites Wikipedia. Now, Any college professor or any person that has been to college in the last 15 to 20 years since Wikipedia has been on the earth, okay, is told you don't use Wikipedia at all, ever. Okay? You have to find something. Now, I found a website, and I will post it below. This is the text of the website, and I'm going to go through this because I feel that I'm not doing any justice unless I go through this whole entire thing. So the link to this is in below. Now, some people go, oh, because they confessed, and we know that there was some confession that there was this thing or that thing or blah, blah, blah. We know that they're all hoaxes. You can't prove that. Okay? They can't prove that every single one was a hoax. Yes, in this article, in this website article, the guy does say, that they talked to the farmer, and the farmer said, he faked them. But here's the article. It says, the Ica stones are a collection of what are believed to be ancient Peruvian artifacts that depict man and dinosaurs, extinct creatures like prehistoric fish, ancient world maps, and what could be described as complex medical procedures. The stones are the source of much mystery due to their engravings, and pose many questions, if authentic, about our version of history, particularly the existence of dinosaurs and humans, and at what point they existed, which is something that, Ken Hovind is a big proponent of. Also, Ken Ham, also the Institute for Creation Research. Okay, dinosaurs just died out during the flood. That's our story. We're sticking to it. The main issue many scientists have with the Ica stones is that the presumed date of the stones is unknown due to their near impossibility of dating non-organic material. Determining when and what period they were engraved, or even when the rocks were formed, is almost impossible to accurately predict. What we do know about the Ica stones is that most of them are owned by a Dr. Javier Cabrera, d'Arquea, who first encountered one of the stones around age 40. Intrigued by the engravings on the rock, Dr. Cabrera inquired about the item, subsequently purchasing a collection that now stands as what is thought to be more than 10,000. Most definitely a topic worthy of our artifacts section, the Ica stones are an unsolved mystery that have garnered opinions from experts, the media, and historians alike. We intend to delve more deeply into the shrouded mystery of the Ica stones and look at the key points surrounding these ancient stone artifacts. Okay, the appearance. The stones are striking-looking objects. They are of andesite, which is volcanic rock, and gives them a dark, earthy color, and similar in tone to light charcoal. In contrast, the engraving found on the Ica stones are light, almost white, which gives an excellent contrast to the engravings. The engravings themselves are typical shallow cuts on the outer surface of the stones. The stones themselves come in a range of sizes, from small pebbles to much larger rocks that would be impossible for one human to move on their own. Okay, where are the Ica stones found? The Ica stones were found in Ica, Peru, which is, of course, where they inherit their name from. Ica itself is the capital of the region, which is located in southwest Peru. The initial stones themselves from Dr. Cabrera's collection were said to have been found in a cave by the farmer who found them. Later, Dr. Cabrera is reported to have bought more stones from two collectors who owned around 300 of them. Even more stones traded hands when Cabrera started buying more stones off of another local farmer called Basilio Ushuaia. Now, this is the guy, this Basilio Ushuaia right here, this is the guy who is the subject of much controversy, because he's the one that actually said, I'm the one faking some of these stones. Some of the engravings I have done myself. Okay, when we get down towards the end of the article, I will come back and I'll talk a little bit about some of my conclusions and where I think some of these people are wrong. Okay, so let's continue. The Ica Stones collection. The largest collection of Ica stones in existence is owned by a Dr. Javier Cabrera d'Arquea. He's a physician who lives in Ica. Dr. Cabrera was the main driving force behind the popularization of the stones as the largest collector and also author of the book, The Message of the Engraved Stones of the Ica. Dr. Cabrera has a museum in Peru that displays the stones, believing the stones should be on display as they show links to what could be the first Peruvian civilization. The thing is that there are ruins around Ica, Peru, that show that there was a civilization that lived in those mountains before modern day Peru, before the Spanish came in, before some of the other stuff that happened. So there are links, there are people that are like, there should be something here, because there is something. Okay? The collection to date is reported to house over 10,000 stones and is open to the public. The engraved depictions on the stones are what the discussion is all about with the Ica stones, and the topics covered in the engravings are certainly diverse and worthy of attention. Many of the Ica stones depict medical operations, often complex procedures that would probably not have been attempted until recent times. Other stones depict human and dinosaurs interacting, and dinosaurs on their own. And what this essentially means is that if these engravings were from ancient times, it means that engravers saw the dinosaurs with their own eyes, and currently changing our considered version of history, which is something that we've found out, that there are still dinosaurs alive today. Okay, Nessie's a good example of that. Makale Mbembe down in Africa, down in Central Africa, because tribes have reported, tribes that have never seen human contact before. You go down there and you show them things of like a Apatosaurus and Brontosaurus, and they go, yeah, that's a Makale Mbembe right out there in the swamp. Don't get near him. He's pretty dangerous. Now, whether or not those people are just pulling our leg or not is another debate. But the point is that, yes, dinosaurs and men live together, okay? Because there are actual, human footprints in mud next to trilobites, okay? Like, actual human footprints. So, and we know, the other part of it is this guy goes, oh, they have these complex medical procedures that would probably never have been attempted. You realize that people were, cutting out victims' hearts in Central America and Mexico, like the Incas and the Aztecs. Okay, they did human sacrifice all the time. Okay, that would be considered a complex medical procedure because you have to cut the victim open while they're still alive. Okay, and you have to do certain things while they're still alive. That was part of the whole process of that. So the thing is, okay, we found batteries in Egyptian tombs. Okay, chemical batteries, like our Duracell batteries type thing. Okay, they're about as large as a car battery because they were contained in clay jars, but they had coils of metal, okay, running around a cylinder of clay that were stuck in these jars. And at first, when they found them, they were like, we don't even know what this is, until somebody went, dude, it's almost like our lead-acid batteries that we use in our cars. They're basically just Duracell batteries. They would pour certain types of mixtures of chemicals in there, and they generate electricity. And they're like, you're joshing. So they went and they tried it, and they found out that, these were batteries. So could they have known complex medical procedures that were lost to time? Yes. There is. You go back and you look at what Leonardo da Vinci did. Leonardo da Vinci laid the foundation for our modern medicine in the 1500s, okay? But really, he was just putting to paper what people knew in Rome and Greece pre-Dark Ages, okay? Pre-Middle Dark Ages, okay? We lost a lot. When the fall of Rome happened, we lost a lot of knowledge. And why we favor the Renaissance period, why it's the Renaissance, is because you had people like Leonardo da Vinci that went out and actually just kind of took stuff and put pen and paper together, okay? And they literally just sat down and wrote down what we were all kind of thinking at the time, okay? He went out and did anatomy drawings, okay? Because he studied cadavers and he studied musculature and skin, and he studied how people walked every day, okay? And he would watch the Romans compete in games, because it's kind of crude to say, but back then people competed in the nude, okay? So like Greco-Roman wrestling, okay, back in those days the people competed in the nude because it was a sign of you didn't have anything hidden on you. Okay? So they'd strip all the way down, they'd oil themselves up, and then they'd go out and they would wrestle. Okay? And it was a sign of strength to be able to like grab a person, okay, and be able to like flip them over and land on them. So he would see how like the different muscles in the arm, for instance, okay? And so he would go and watch these games, and he would watch these guys compete because he could study how the muscles moved. Okay? And that's where we get that one drawing of the circle with the man inside of it. The Vesuvian Man, I think, is what it's called. But anyway, I'll put it down on the subtitle. But anyway, it's like that's kind of what they looked at. Okay? And so when they looked at that, they went, and he would just do that. And then from that, okay, modern medicine was born, okay? And so a lot of people, could there have been that knowledge before? Very well likely, okay? Because there's a lot of passages in the Bible that actually kind of explain things about anatomy that you could not know unless you actually were able to cut someone open and pull them open and like look inside, okay? So, okay. So then it says, some of the other common engraving themes involves maps of the continents of Earth, including continents that don't exist today, and engravings of astronomers and astrological figures. What could the Ica stones tell us? If the Ica stones are indeed authentic, that's true, then it proves that either dinosaurs existed along mankind, or then it proves that dinosaurs either existed along mankind. Well, I don't know why that is in there, but anyway, it says, then it proves that dinosaurs existed along with mankind. This in turn means one of two things. If dinosaurs did not become extinct at the time we believe they did, or that humans existed long before we thought they did. Of course, both of these notions fall prey to the fact that there is no organic time-dated proof to show that either of these scenarios are true. Well, actually, the fossil record isn't as sorted as everybody gets, and we'll get into that. Okay, we're going to get into the geologic column, and we're going to get into some of that stuff. This is going to be a very technical episode past this. Okay, when we start getting into the actual geologic column, things are going to get fairly technical with geological stuff. Okay, because I'm actually going to prove to this guy once and for all that I have actually studied geology and that he has no idea what he's talking about. So yeah, basically it's like what this guy's saying is that right now as it stands in the evolution theory, because this guy's coming from the evolution, this guy in this article is coming from the evolution theory, he's saying we don't have human bones next to dinosaur bones in dirt. We don't have, we don't see dinosaur graveyards around the world today, right now. Okay. And I believe that's because the people would have basically destroyed dinosaurs when they got too rampagey. Okay, they would have just gone out and killed them. We call them dragons. Okay, dinosaur wasn't invented until the 1860s or 70s when they first were discovered in the dirt. When a guy was out digging and he dug up some the original dinosaur bones, they didn't know what to call them, so they used the Latin and they called them dinosaur, terrible lizard. Okay. So anyway, the authenticity of the Ica stones. This is kind of one of the things that the next few of these we're gonna kind of talk about. Okay. So it says, the authenticity of the Ica stones. There are multiple points that cast doubt on the genuine authenticity of the Ica stones, from the inability to effectively date the stones to key points about the story of their discovery, We plan to list various points pertaining to the Ica stones that should shed some light on the possibility that the stones are authentic. Says the discovery. The first point is that is short on information is the location where the first Ica stones were found. Dr. Cabrera bought the first stones off the farmer that found them. The farmer stated that he found them in a cave and in river beds. However, the location of the cave or riverbed has never been discussed or investigated, and the large collection that Dr. Cabrera owns, maybe we should have expected this cave or the river to have been found by now. That's not necessarily true, okay? Because, I mean, honestly, Dr. Cabrera probably should have actually asked the gentleman, you know, where's this cave? Where is this river? Where can we go so that we can just, you know, see these stones lying on the ground? Okay, that's one of the things that they're saying here that's like, yeah, Dr. Cabrera probably should have gone out there and verified it, okay? The inability to date the Ica stones, okay? Says one of the more problematic part of the mystery of the stones is the inability, it should be THEIR, their inability to be dated. Without organic matter to directly draw a carbon date from, it's impossible to give the stones a date of creation. Even if the rocks were able to be accurately dated, then we would also have the issue of determining when the engravings were made. So, what he's saying there is that, you know, potassium argon dating isn't necessarily going to give you a date either, because it's too long of a time. And we don't have any like fingerprints or DNA or like plant material that they were wrapped in or anything like that to be able to say, oh, these were carbon dated at 10,000 years ago, and we know that there was a Peruvian civilization around that time. Okay, yay, blah, you know, blah blah blah. So that's the problem, okay? And so that's one of the things that people think, oh, well, see, since we don't know anything else about the stones, then they must be a hoax, okay? Now, this is the one that I kind of draw issue with, okay? The hardness of the andesite stones. One factor that is often discussed is the hardness of the andesite rocks that the engravings are made on. It would have been difficult to effectively engrave these stones with less advanced tools, and if it was possible, the engravings are very intricate and detailed for basic tools. That does not make the engravings with the more basic tools impossible, however. And we know that there have been various stones and various things that were carved in Egypt and in, you know, like the Middle East, okay? We know that there were stones and things that were carved very intricately with those tools that they used. So I would venture a guess that if there was an ancient Peruvian civilization that grew out of the time of the flood of Noah, that, you know, they would have walked across, they would have come down to Peru, and they would have found obsidian, they would have found diamonds, they would have found various tools that they could use, okay, to carve with. So, could this be carving? Maybe. Okay. So, here's some. Now here's the point that most people contend is why the Ica stones are fake. So, here it is. Interviews on the Ica stones. The Ica stones have garnered a lot of attention. Combined detail, the combination of detailed depictions of medical procedures and ancient species, the mystery of their origin, have not only interested historians but also the media. In certain interviews, one of the providers of the stones to Dr. Cabrera, the farmer Basilio Basilio Ushaya, actually confessed that the Ica stones were fakes that he had fabricated. However, when you realize that in Peru, punishment for selling ancient artifacts involves jail, then you can realize that when Ushaya confessed this, it was because the local police were investigating the claims. In actual fact, in a later interview, he claimed the fear of punishment was his reason to declare the stones as frauds. So even if he did, let's say he did carve, he never said which ones he carved, he never said which ones were faked, and he couldn't have faked 10,000 stones. 4 men couldn't have faked 10,000 stones. Okay? Now, Basilio Ushaya is actually dead now. The other guy, he is looking at, various parts of it, and, and he was looking at, and so the only person that we have to go on is, Dr. Cabrera, because Dr. Cabrera is still alive today, okay? He hasn't passed away yet, thankfully, so, people can still interview him, people can still talk to him. And Basilio Ushuaia's interview, and see, this is one of the things that I think that a lot of atheists like to do, is when somebody claims something, they never investigate the claim fully. They just take that claim and they run with it, right? So, like Dan, he didn't do any research on the Ica stones. He just went, oh, a farmer said some of them were faked, so they're all fake. Well, you don't know that, Dan, because you didn't do any homework, okay? You didn't take a look and see if the claims were that way. And it's the same thing with Turbo Brain. Turbo Brain didn't do any work. He just went to Wikipedia, typed in Ica stones, hit enter, and grabbed the first two sentences that anyone can edit, by the way, and then threw them up on my comment section, was like, gotcha. No, you haven't gotten anybody, because you didn't do your homework, son. You didn't. Alright, so, summarizing the mysterious Ica stones. Okay? So, the Ica stones are just intriguing. Their origin unknown, their undatability, and the beauty of the engravings just to make them superb ancient artifacts. Whether you believe the Ica stones hold the key to life in ancient times or are simply a hoax is for you to decide. You cannot, however, dispute how much intrigue and fascinations the Ica stones have developed. Now, this next article, okay, this is the absolute definition of a biased article, okay? And we're going to talk about it. Because this article was from a website called How Stuff Works. And again, I will post this article down below so that you can actually go and know that I just copied the text and pasted it into Word. Okay? Now, this was written by a gal named Kate Kirshner, who has a degree in creative writing from Western Washington University, which is just on the other side of the state from me, okay, and has written more than 400 articles for How Stuff Works. Okay, I literally took her name, okay, right-clicked it, said open a new tab, and then looked at what they had written. And this is what they had written. I literally just went, okay, again, I just copied it, pasted it, okay. She has a degree in creative writing. She's not an archaeologist. Granted, neither is Dr. Cabrera, but she's not an archaeologist, and she probably has no idea what the actual archaeology or anthropology fields are. Because again, she has a degree in creative writing. Now, I'm not saying that you can't have taken some courses, okay? Like, I don't have a degree in geology, but I can still talk about geology because I've actually been out in the field. Like I said, we'll get to that, okay? So, this is the definition of a biased article, okay? Let's do this real quick. So she says, "Let's pretend I call you up and ask you to come over right away. Okay, I've been digging in my backyard and say I found something that is going to rewrite the timeline of human history as we know it. When you get to my place, I show you some old-looking pots, still covered in dirt, that have stylized pictures on them. One has art that depicts ancient-seeming people performing open-heart surgery. Another shows humans riding dinosaurs. Is your reaction A, why did you spend so much time creating such a dumb joke? Or B, oh my, alert the authorities, human civilization was far more advanced than I previously understood, and also they lived in harmony with the dinosaurs, call all the archaeologists. If you were Dr. Javier Cabrera Darquia, you would choose the latter. he did have pretty much that reaction when a Peruvian farmer gave him a stone tablet, one of the first to be dubbed the Ica stones. Dr. Cabrera claimed that the stone showed a picture of a fish long extinct before humans roamed the earth. According to Cabrera, this either meant that aliens gave humans some inside info about extinct fish at some point, or the extinction human timeline is wrong, can be. And then she cites a source of a guy who wrote an article or wrote a paper on it. Says, now might be a good time to note that Dr. Cabrera was a medical doctor, not an archaeologist, not a paleontologist, not a naturalist or a scientist. Well, he is technically a scientist because he's a medical doctor. And this is why, when you have a creative writing degree, you should not be writing articles about this stuff. Okay? Says, nobody's ever figured out what made him think the highly stylized and thus unrealistic depiction of the fish screamed extinct to him. Moving on. Well, I mean, let me see here. If somebody writes a highly stylized and cartoonish version of Noah's Ark and the flood, does that mean that it didn't happen? Because if you go right now to any Christian's home that have kids, have young kids, and you ask them, what's a book that you have that you show your kids about Noah's Ark? They're going to go to their child's bedroom, they're going to pull out a couple of books, and I guarantee you, they're going to be cartoonish. They're going to have the funky little ark, thing, and they're going to have this, and they're going to have that, and I'll post up a little picture right above my head of a highly stylized and cartoonish-looking ark. Now, does that mean that the story of Noah's Ark never happened? Or let's say that, somebody chooses to make a movie where people are flying off of bamboo sticks in a forest with swords, and they're running all over the place, and they're running along branches, and they're jumping really high in the air. And we call that movie Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and it's a highly stylized version and cartoonish version of actual Japanese or Chinese history. Should we say that that event is totally fake and never happened? Or what about this? The legend of the 47 Ronin is actually something that is of much debate in Japan. Okay? Because there have been a lot of stories written about the 47. And this is one of them. Okay? And this one has this sorcerer, played by Rinku Kinkuchi, okay, who, is this person who can, do magic and, turns into a wolf and, does all this crazy stuff. Are we to believe that the 47 Ronin never happened? Because this depiction of it was highly stylized and cartoonish. And let me ask you this. Miss Writer of this article. Okay, Miss Kershaw. How would this farmer have known to carve that fish that would get someone's attention? Okay? Why would he not have come out with one that portrayed like a T-Rex? With humans stabbing it. Okay? That would be way more interesting than just an extinct fish. And just because a fish is extinct and there's a drawing of it, that means that, maybe the person that carved it saw that fish before it went extinct. We have pictures, pictograms in caves showing animals that are no longer around anymore. And people are killing that animal with spears. Are we to believe that because that's on the wall of the cave and it's a highly stylized and cartoonish depiction of people killing an extinct animal that it never happened? This is the slippery slope we start to go on when you have this stuff. Okay? When you have a person who believes in evolution and has a creative writing degree comes out and says, and sees, that Basilio Ushuaia, had come out in an interview and said, yeah, some of these were fake, blah, 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 that all of a sudden that this would be something that she would have to be like, oh my god, this is all completely fake. Because it's right here, highly stylized and thus unrealistic depiction of the fish screamed extinct to him. Well, probably because if he's studied medicine, he probably studied biology, and he probably saw some fossil of that fish and was like, oh my god, this stone and this fossil, this picture of this fossil from my biology textbook are very, very similar, if not the same, outside of being highly stylized. People have done stuff highly stylized. I mean, look at anime, for heaven's sake. Anime is highly stylized. Okay? And there's a lot of anime that is based on real events that happened in Japan. Okay? No, I'm not saying that every single anime is based on it, but there are some animes that are based on legends in Japan. Are we to take those legends as completely fake as you want to because they're highly stylized and thus unrealistic? Think about it. Okay? Then it says, undaunted, Cabrera claims to have found caves in the area with loads of more engraved stones, 100,000 even. But he never got around to telling people where that cave was, so that doing so could be, so that dating could be completed on the stones. Why would you need to know exactly where the cave was to date the stones? Isn't potassium argon dating supposed to be reliable? Oops, didn't I say that potassium argon dating wasn't reliable before? And again, the stones were carved with images from modern times. Surgery, astronomical inventions, flying machines, humans hanging out with dinosaurs. Now, note that the farmer who gave Cabrera the original stone did admit carving some of them. And it's true that there's a ton of them at least, which could lead one to consider that the sheer number of them could be a compelling point. But it's also been posited that other people in the region have also used them to ply the tourist trade, and that some of the stones might be at least somewhat authentic pre-Columbian art from the region. All in all, the claims that the farmer in Cabrera, who died in 2001... Oh, sorry. Was it Cabrera that died in 2001, or was it the farmer? I thought the farmer died in 2001. I thought Cabrera was still alive. Anyway, if he did die, sorry, my bad. Just don't pass scientific evidence test. Yeah, like what? Like, did you want a tag on it saying, carved by Pascal in such and such a so-and-so time frame? Come on. Jeez. I mean, this is the problem with having somebody who has a creative writing degree and believes in evolution, okay, and doesn't really know what the scientific method is, okay? It's like, so alas, the Ica stones, far more likely a product of an elaborate hoax with a bit of pre-Columbian authenticity thrown in for good measure, will probably never be given a label of legitimacy by any scientific or academic authority. In fact, the first article was actually written by a British scientist who had studied the stones and was like, yeah, I can't say for certain that they're 100% authentic or that they're 100% a hoax. Because there is a law that says that if there is some kind of an artifact that is, from the time, from before Columbus, okay, got here, we want to keep it in the country. We don't want to sell it. We don't want to do all this stuff. So he admitted to it, and then later on said, no, I admitted to saying that I did it because authorities were investigating on whether or not these artifacts should have been, maybe sold to certain people. Okay? Because they don't want them leaving the country. So, here again, this person is just stating something that they don't have any reasonable claim to make. Because what I would have said if I was writing this article is I would have said it much the same way the first guy said it. I would have said, here's some history on it, here's some facts on it, and here's some things. And they even say that, they even say right here, and that some of the stones might be at least somewhat authentic pre-Columbian art from the region. So which is it? Again, either they're real, or at least some of them are real, and then some of them are hoaxes. But how do we tell which ones are the hoaxes? The farmer never said, I carved this one, and this one, and this one, and this one, and this. He never said that. He just admitted in an interview while the authorities were investigating that he faked some of the stones. Now, whether or not he actually did fake the stones or not, doesn't matter. That means that if he faked them, he had to have, to make them look authentic, he had to have some actual examples of them. Okay? So that means that there actually is some actual Ica stones that are real. Which means that some of them are likely real. But which ones? I mean, like, how would a farmer in the middle of Peru who has never studied open heart surgery like a doctor would have, how would he know how to carve someone performing open heart surgery on someone? There's a good question for you to ask yourself. Okay? Alright, so let's move on from the Ica stones. Okay. So then he came back and said that the moon would crash into the Earth 1.4 billion years ago, not 10. Okay. This is me talking. Okay. I went back. I watched it again. Yes. He did say that in his original lecture. But he also says in other videos, okay, that the moon was much closer to the Earth 10,000 years ago. Okay? That the rate that it's actually moving away, that if we were to pull it back in, the gravitational pull of the Earth would cause, and the gravitational pull of the moon would cause the tides to be much, much stronger, especially during the flood. Okay? So, I admit, he did say 1.4 billion. But that does kind of put a thing on, like, say, the story of Earth, which says that the planetoid that crashed into the molten Earth caused an accretion disk that became the moon, and then it flew away, and that was at like 4 billion years ago, because the Earth is like 4.6 billion years. So while the Earth was still molten, this other planet that happened to form somehow, and as if by magic, crashed into the molten Earth and blew apart, and that created the moon. So that shoots holes in that theory. That's my point. My whole point of saying 10, it could be 10,000, it could be 1.4, it doesn't effing matter. Okay? The point is that the Earth cannot be 4 billion years old if the moon was with the Earth at 1.4. That's the point. Okay? Then he says, in those ancient times, before the flood, no one nor any creature lived beyond normal ages, except for Hebrew patriarch. Ramesses II was 80. Why is it only Hebrews? Because we know that those people lived after the flood. Yeah. The Egyptian civilization rose after the flood. It's you evolutionists saying, oh, well, we know that there was like Assyrian kings that are like 10,000 years old. No, you don't. No, you don't. You're assuming that it's that old because you don't have any other records. And it's because you're saying that, oh, well, see, we know that the Bible was written at this time, and so we know that this civilization was before that. Well, no, that was just when Moses wrote down the story of the Bible. Okay? the story of Genesis. It was being told orally, passed down from father to son, from father to son, from father to son. Okay? You would tell the history of your people. In fact, they still do it today in certain countries. Like, for instance, okay, the Irish river dancing. That is their history in dance form. So when those people go out and they perform, they are literally telling you their history in dance. That's it. And there's a guy in, like, Finland, okay, who actually, like, I believe it was on this, National Geographic, Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, Beyond the Movie. They were talking about where did Tolkien kind of come in with his inspiration. And a lot of it has to do with the preservation of history. A lot of history is oral, told down through civilizations. And they go and they actually interviewed a guy in Finland who literally was out there, like, he was, showing how to do certain things. And his tradition is oral. He literally passes it on by having people come and learn and recite and do things. But he's like one of the last ones because no one has come to him to learn his history. So, like, when he dies, it's likely that if he doesn't get it passed on, that nobody will remember Finnish history that this guy knows. Because everybody just assumes that everything's been written down in books. Including this guy. Okay? Then he says, I simply checked Google. Because I said no. I said pre-flood. Okay? There was no other civilization pre-flood. All of the civilizations that we've had, that we have a record of, were after the flood. Okay? How do we know this? Because there was no civilization before the Sumerians, and the Sumerians' Epic of Gilgamesh actually talks about Noah and the flood. Okay? So then he says, I simply checked Google. There isn't any records of anyone living to 900 years outside of the Bible. Sauropods lived about 100 years. Ramesses II is listed as the oldest pharaoh to have lived at 86. The first pharaoh was in 3297 BC. After the flood. He didn't realize, he didn't realize that literally he just owned himself. Because the flood happened in 4400 BC. Which means that the first pharaoh was in 3297 after the flood. Because we count down, son, not up. Are you an idiot? I mean, you literally just owned yourself. Okay? You literally just owned yourself. You just... Oh my god. Okay. So... the next one is going to be, we're going to start getting into geology, okay? And from there, it's going to get very technical. Like I said, this is probably going to take a few, so it's probably not going to be complete right now. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a bit from the Bible right here at the end, just because I can, okay? Because it's Christmas, okay? And a lot of you will probably recognize this because it will be very similar to a verse that is very well known because it's from one of my absolute all-time favorite things, okay? In those days, an edict was issued by the Emperor Augustus that a census of the whole world should be taken. It was the first census taken when Quirinius was governor of Syria. So everyone went to his own town to register. And Joseph went up from Galilee to the town of Nazareth to Judea, to the city of David, called Bethlehem, because he belonged to the house and family of David, to register with Mary, who was engaged to him, and who was soon to become a mother. While they were there, the time came for her child to be born, and she gave birth to her firstborn son, and she wrapped him up and laid him in a manger, for there was no room for them at the inn. There were some shepherds in that neighborhood keeping watch through the night over their flock in the open fields. And an angel of the Lord stood by them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terribly frightened. The angel said to them, "Do not be frightened, for I bring you good news of great joy that is to be felt by all the people. For today, in the city and town of David, a Savior for you has been born, who is your Messiah and Lord. And this baby will prove it to you. You will find the baby wrapped up and lying in a manger." Suddenly there appeared with the angel a throng of the heavenly army, praising God and saying, "Glory to God in heaven and on earth, peace to the men he favors." When the angels left them and returned to heaven, the shepherds said to one another, "Come, let us go over to Bethlehem and see this thing that has happened, and the Lord has told us of." And they hurried there, and found Mary and Joseph with the baby lying in the manger. When they saw this, they were told what had been said to them about the child. And all who heard it were amazed at what the shepherds told them, but Mary treasured it all up that they had said and pondered over it. So I'm just going to say this. Have a Merry Christmas and a wonderful New Year. And we will see you. Well, smash that like button, hit subscribe, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think of the Comments on Comments series so far. And let me know what you think of Turbo Brain's ignorance here. Okay? So, and as we say, we will see you on the next one.